Hey guys, so for today's video, I am going to be doing like a Victorian Gothic type of set. I got some of those 3D molds from Amazon, and I really wanted to try them out and use them, and they are more on the like Gothic, Victorian like type of Gothic side of things, so I thought it'd be a perfect time to do like a Victorian Gothic type of set. To start off, I am taking, I believe this is Cheesecake from Ballpit, and I paint all of the nails with this. I do 2 coats of this, and I cure each coat for 60 seconds. And real quick, I wanted to show you guys what happens if you don't like prep your tips. You can get separation on the tip sometimes because the polish doesn't want to stick to that smooth, shiny surface. So you should be prepping your tips, but because I don't like make these to be worn or anything, I don't usually prep them, and I usually don't have an issue with separation like that, but I was having an issue with that color and these tips, so that's just to make you guys aware that separation can be a problem, and you should be prepping the tips either by physically etching them with like a nail file or buffer e-file, or chemically etching them with some primer. Then I decided for the base, I wanted to kind of give it more of like a oldie, vintagey kind of feel. So I just took all these browns. I think it was like Fudge Pop, Caramel Drizzle, I don't know. You saw them all there. But just a bunch of different shades of brown. And then I took a sponge, one for each color, and then I just dabbed the color onto the nail. I did this one color at a time, but I just took the whatever color, dabbed it onto the nail, and then I started out by trying to blend it out with the same sponge, but there was just too much of the color on the sponge, so I switched to a different sponge to blend it out. So I used one sponge to put the color on the nail, and then a different sponge to blend it out. And I did start out just by applying this around the edge of the nail, and I was just going to keep it like that to make it look like some old paper that was like torn up, or like maybe got like burnt in like a fire or something. But then I ended up doing this all over the entire nail because I really I don't know, I just wasn't liking how it was looking, just being around the edges. So I ended up sponging these colors on and over the entire nail, and I wasn't curing in between each of the colors. I would just put a color on and then like blend it out a little bit, do a new color, blend that out, and I just kept doing that and going through the different colors until I got the nail to look the way that I wanted it to look. And then after I got it the way I wanted it, I did go ahead and cure for 60 seconds. And I did this on all of the nails. And the whole reason why I wanted to make the nails kind of look like, you know, old paper or whatever was because I wanted to do like make it look like a letter, like a handwritten letter, and like the Victorian ages or whatever, where it's like the really fancy cursive and all of that. But then after I did the background and I got all the sponging done and all of that, I was like, I don't really feel like trying to do like this script across the nails. And I didn't even necessarily have to do like actual words or anything. I could just do like some squiggly lines and like make it look like it would be words, because it was, all this was just going to be in the background. You weren't even going to really be able to see it because I'm putting these little charms that I make with the silicone molds on top. So I didn't really have to be too precise with it, but then also I was just like, I just don't feel like doing that. And then I thought about stamping it on. I do have some like stamping plates, and I was looking through them to see if I had any that would give like that effect of like a handwritten letter or whatever, and I really didn't have any designs on these stamping plates that gave that very much. There was one design that had like random words on it, and they were in like different fonts and stuff, but and I didn't really care about like the words that were on it, but I didn't like the fonts because all the words were in different fonts and it wasn't what I was wanting. Like I wanted that really like swirly, loopy, fancy looking cursive that you would see on these letters and stuff from way back when, whenever that time period was. And so I didn't do the stamping either because I'm like, this is gonna look goofy if I have like just regular printed words on here. And like I said, the words didn't matter. I didn't care what the words said. They said some weird stuff too. But I didn't care about the words. I just wanted them to look a certain way, and they didn't look the way that I wanted it. And I didn't want to paint them on. So that idea kind of went out the window with like the love letter type of look that I was going for. But I do really like how the background or the base of the nails ended up. It does give more of like a Victorian type of feel to them because it does kind of look like the paper that you see like whenever you look up Victorian letters and stuff like that. And then I had these little frames that I've had for a while that I've been wanting to do like some sort of Victorian type of framed look for them with, and I thought this set would be really good for that, so I pulled out one of the gold frames. I do have some silver frames too, and I was like, oh, I could use silver because I personally like silver more than gold, but I felt like gold was going to fit better with like the Victorian theme over the silver. And I wanted to put a little skull in the middle of the frame. And this is one of the molds that I got off of Amazon. This one side has 3 different size skulls, and then the other side has 2 different size skulls, but on the skulls they're like in roses. I just wanted the plain skulls for this, so I wasn't really sure what size was going to be the best and would fit the best in that frame, so I did the smallest one and the medium sized one. And to make these little skull charms, I'm just taking a dotting tool and dabbing in that cheesecake color, the original color that I put on the base of the nails, into the molds. And I've used silicone molds before because I've gotten a couple from some mystery boxes last year, or not last year, the year before, 2024. But anyhow, I used a nail art brush for that, and like when it's a deeper mold like this and you have to like really push the polish deep in there, I feel like you shouldn't be using your liner brush, because you can potentially mess it up, and I don't want to damage any of my brushes because they're all fairly new, and I want to try and keep them nice and be able to use them for a long time before, they get all messed up and I have to get new ones. So I find it's better to use like a dotting tool for this, so you can really push it down into that mold and get into all of the little crevices and corners and everything that you need to get it into. You obviously don't want to push too hard with it, otherwise you could puncture the mold and like mess up the design or whatever. So it is nice to use the dotting tool because you can actually push down into the mold and not worry about messing up your bristles or anything on a liner brush. Some parts, I will say, are better for a liner brush. Like if there's details you're trying to paint on, like if I wanted to do the eyeballs a different color on here, or like the eye sockets a different color on here, or even like the nose socket or whatever, I could have used the liner brush and like pushed it in there. Or like for some of the roses and like flowers and stuff, there are like vines and thorns and stuff, so I feel like using the liner brush would be better for that, because you can get a little more precise with a liner brush, whereas with the dotting tool it kind of just goes wherever it goes, and you can't like get into those tiny little nooks and crannies for like all the tiny little details if you're doing multiple different colors. But for the skulls here, I was just doing this one color, and the dotting tool worked really well. I did one layer of that, and then I cured it for 60 seconds, and then I did a second layer because there was a little bit of separation between the polish and the mold, and it didn't cover everything that I wanted it to cover, or like cover the entire design. So I did go in with a second coat of this, just again doing the same thing, dabbing it in there with the dotting tool. And then once I got all of that covered, I did go ahead and cure for 60 seconds again. And if I needed to, I would have done a third coat, but I didn't need to for this one. And I didn't show me making all of the little charms that I did, because this is actually a very tedious task, especially if you're doing multiple different colors, and depending on how much detail is in the little charm that you're making, it takes a long time, and you have to like cure each color, and you have to do so many layers and cure each layer, and it just took a really long time to make all of the different little charms that I made. So I really just showed me making these skull ones, and then the other ones that I made I did off camera because it took me so long to get those done, and I would have had like several hours of footage to go through, and I just really didn't want to have to take, 2-3 hours worth of footage and condense it down to like a 30-minute video. But anyhow, after I got that second layer cured, I just went in and filled in the rest of the mold with some rhinestone glue. That also reminds me that because I do fill in the rest of the mold with rhinestone glue, I do bring the polish color all the way up the edges of the molds. Otherwise you'll see like the separation between the rhinestone glue and the color of the rest of the charm. So in order to not see that, just bring the polish color all the way up the sides of the mold, and then it's like hides the rhinestone glue, so you don't have like that separation line between the polish color and the rhinestone glue. Then once that was all in there, I went ahead and cured for 60 seconds, and then was able to easily pop the little charms out. They pop out real easy because gel polish does not stick to silicone, so it's super easy to pop them out. And then you can just, if there's any kind of gel polish stuck onto the mold, you can just pull it off easy. It's really easy to clean it up. And then here I was testing which one I thought would be better for the frame charm, and I went with the medium sized one because it just fit a little bit better. Here's the other mold that I used for this set. I do show you, these are the little ones that I decided to make. And when I made those, each color got cured for 60 seconds in between doing the next color, just so I could make sure that everything was completely cured. And when you pull the charms out of the molds, they don't have a sticky layer because that very bottom layer there wasn't exposed to any oxygen or like the air. And the air is what makes it so like the very top layer of gel doesn't fully cure, and that's why you have that sticky layer, which I think is so weird because obviously we have top coats that can cure without the sticky layer, and there are polishes that don't have the sticky layer, and like liner gels and stuff. So I'm like, why don't they just make all polishes like that so they don't have the sticky layer? Because the sticky layer is just annoying to deal with, because you can get all kinds of lint and fuzz and whatever in it, if you don't wipe it off and then you do something or you accidentally touch something or whatever. But anyhow, you don't have to top coat the little charms that you make. But you can if you want to, like if you want them to be more matte or if you want them to be shiny, just depending on how you want the design to look or your charm to look or whatever once it's on the nail. I don't think I top coated these ones, but anyhow, to put all the charms on, I'm just using some rhinestone glue. I think I used the squeeze gummy jelly from Nail Couture to put all of them on. And then after I put the rhinestone glue on, I did apply the Nails by Dev matte top coat, so I didn't have to go around all the charms and stuff, because like I said, I did not top coat the charms. Sorry. I did not top coat the charms at all. but I wanted the base of the nails to be matte. So I did the rhinestone glue, then put the matte top coat on top, then stuck the charms in, cured that for 60 seconds. Apparently it didn't show me gluing down all of the charms. I don't know why. But here I am just going around and wiping off the sticky layer from the Nails by Dev matte top coat, because it is a wipe off matte top coat. So you do have to wipe the sticky layer off to get that matte effect, and obviously to remove the sticky layer. And this is what they were looking like once I was finished. And I thought they looked pretty good, but also I was kind of like, there's something missing or something off about them. Like, I wasn't super happy with them, and it was kind of at this point I was regretting not doing like the script on the background, because I think that would have really elevated the set a little bit. So I ended up deciding to take some black polish. I think this is the black from Ballpit. I don't know why I said the think. Why I said I think. Because I know it's the black from Ballpit. That's the only black I use. But anyhow, I just dabbed some of that around the edges of the nails, and then I blended it out with another sponge just to kind of give like a darker look and feel to the nails. And then on all of the roses, I went with a brighter red, mainly because of the heart charm here, how it's the heart and then the roses on top of it. And I was like, well, I want those roses to stand out a little bit, so I used a brighter red. But it ended up being way too bright for like the kind of vibes that I was going for. So I ended up mixing some of the black into the matte top coat, because I wanted all of this to be matte. I mixed it into some of the matte top coat, and then did like a little wash over the roses. I also did a little wash over the skull here to kind of make it look old and like weathered and stuff. And then I cured that for 60 seconds, and then I had to wipe it down with some alcohol so that it, remove the sticky layer and bring out the matte effect. And I do feel like that really helped the set a lot, adding this black around the border. You know what? It actually might have been... Now that I'm thinking about it, it actually was the emo black liner gel, because the emo black liner gel from Ballpit cures without a sticky layer, so you don't have to top coat it. And then like I just patted it out, so it kind of like matted it out a little bit anyways, so I didn't have to worry about top coating again afterwards. So yeah, I was right on saying I think it's the black earlier. Anyhow, so yeah, here I am just mixing up the matte top coat with a little bit of the black polish, so I can create that like black wash to go over the roses to darken them up a little bit, and also to put over the skull to again make it look a little old and weathered. And then yeah, once I got that all on, I did go ahead and cure for 60 seconds again, wiped all that down, removed the sticky layer, bring out the matte effect, and then that was it for this set. And apparently I didn't show them while they were still on the stand, so you're just getting the finishing shots. This is what they look like. They came out alright. They're not my favorite. I definitely could have done better. I feel like I said, the script in the background would have just elevated this set and given it more of that gothic feel. Also, if the roses were a little bit darker, it would have been better as well. But overall, I'm not too mad about it. And the silicone molds were easy to use and they were fun to do. I'm definitely excited to use them more in the future. But that is it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it.